Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good morning. Alhamdulillah, with the grace of Allah, we are going to discuss the concept paper on OIC gender policy to see the development and commitment made by OIC Women Consultative Council. The process of endorsement of the OIC gender policy is a long process, but I will take this 10 minutes to discuss it. Now, we had a preparatory meeting on the 15th of June 2021 before the OIC gender policy was endorsed a month later in Cairo. But the concept paper went through several processes, and I would like to go through the process. In my introduction, we will go through the first ministerial conference on women in Istanbul. So this was way back in 2008, right? Sorry, it's 2006. And then this is followed by November 2008 on the second ministerial conference on women in Cairo, where the ministerial meeting approved establishment of Women Development Organization, short for WDO. And then the next one was discussed in 2010 during the 37th session of the OIC Council of Foreign Ministers, CFN, adopted Statute of Women Development Organization, followed by another in 2016, where the sixth session of the Ministerial Conference on the Role of Women in the Development of OIC member states were organized. It was organized in Istanbul, where the amended OPAO with addition of implementation metrics were included. And then in 2018, the OIC National Strategy Document and Action Plan was endorsed. And last but not least, last year, 2021, the 8th session of the Ministerial Conference on the Role of Women in the Development of OIC member states were organized in Cairo. So that was the last. So basically, that's the process of endorsement on the OIC gender policy. Ladies and gentlemen, the second discussion is on the global commitment on gender equality on member states of OIC, where we see that this is not just commitment made by OIC, but supported by all the Muslim countries. And we will discuss or zero down into 7 areas. Number 1 is the UN Decade for Women in relation to quality development and peace in Nairobi. So that was in 1985, followed by the UN Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And I commend the Gambia for organizing this conference and focusing into violence against women and also child marriage. Next is the Beijing Platform for Action, followed by Women, Peace and Security Framework and Commitments. And there's also the Convention on the Elimination on discrimination, on all forms of discrimination against women, and then the International Conference on Population and Development, and followed by the Millennium Development Goals. So about 7 steps there, yeah, to show that this is not a process which is easy, right? For number 3, we have selected examples on gender policy at regional and national levels to show the degree of commitment, where if you know that the African Union strategy on gender equality has been discussed and made clearly somewhere in 2018 to 2028. So it's a 10-year action plan, followed by Turkey National Strategy Document and Action Plan to Empower Women, 2018 to 2023, a shorter period compared to African Union Strategy on Gender Equality. In Egypt, Gender Equality and Empowerment of Women in 2014 to 2020, followed by Zambia, National Gender Policy in 2014, Burkina Faso National Gender Policy 2009 to 2019, also a 10-year plan. And last but not least, the Gambia Gender Policy from 1999 to 2009. So it's timely that the Gambia prepare a new gender policy, which is a continuation of the Gambia gender policy, which has been completed in 2009. In discussion number 4, I would like to share with you efforts of the OIC towards developing a gender policy for the OIC. As I've mentioned, is not a short process. It went through several processes, from holding ministerial level conferences on the role of women in the development of the OIC member states, consisting of 7 ministerial conferences, to conducting meetings of experts and specialists to discuss issues related to women empowerment. Later, organizing international meetings in cooperation with international and specialized organizations on issues related to women's empowerment, because we are talking about women's empowerment, so we need to get a lot of support from other NGOs and states as well. And then not only meetings, issuing several declarations, statements, and resolutions aimed for the advancement of women. So this is not an easy job, and initiating and structuring departments and mechanisms inside and outside the General Secretariat of OIC on issues of particular concern to women. And I'm glad that the Gambia has prepared this conference to focus on important issues on women and the girl child. And not only that, we have come out with a system to keep track of the implementation of decisions and recommendations mandated on the area with all relevant stakeholders. So that's the process which are already in place. So what are the important issues? Let me just go through. Number 1, strategies, benchmarks, programs, and common objectives for the advancement of women. That's from the OIC perspective. Number 2, we are looking also on national policies and strategies for increasing women empowerment. Number 3, elimination of poverty among families, and particularly how it affects women. Number 4, women participation in local and international decision making and education. This is a very important component. Number 5, establishment of the OIC Women Consultative Council. Alhamdulillah, the council has been established. And also award for women achievement. So the award was given for the first time in Burkina Faso several years ago. And 6, the establishment of the Women Development Organization based in Cairo, Republic Arab of Egypt. So this was last year, somewhere in August, to show OIC commitment supported by many Muslim countries. Number 6, the rationale for the OIC gender policy. There are 4 rationales. Number 1, the purpose of having the gender policy is to facilitate and promote implementation of the amended OPAL, the OIC Plan of Action for the Advancement of Women, adopted in 2016 by OIC member states as well as OIC institutions. I have mentioned this before. Number 2, to achieve the objectives on women empowerment as stated in OIC 2025 Program of Action. Number 3, to establish a common policy that provides basic principles and priorities of OIC member states on gender equity and empowerment of women, so that we know there are gender gap, but we want everybody or all states to move forward, yeah, and then to have a strong and common OIC level policy document with a view to addressing the persistent and emerging gender-based policies in OIC member states. So those are the rationale why we have this. All right, although we have another 4 more rationale, I think we will share some of the documents on the rationales, another 4, but the key principles of the OIC gender policy, we start with identifying disparities in regions, including sensitivities and priorities, facilitate cooperation, maximize contribution, enhance cooperation and engagement to get everybody on board. Another objectives of the OIC gender policy is increase awareness of gender equity. Number 2, to look into again objectives of OPAL, develop capacities on gender mainstreaming, trying to understand why women are not empowered and to mainstream them, and then to cope with challenges faced by women, especially in socio-economic life, and enhance intra-OIC cooperation, and last but not least, to make sure that we achieve sustainable development. Now, we also measure key success factors in terms of political commitment. Okay, we have to measure that. In terms of financial allocation, number 3, stakeholders involvement, and another 3 key success factors are monitoring and follow-up mechanisms to put all those in place, capacity building for gender mainstreaming, and also social being and social protection. So the way forward, in my last slide that I would like to share, is number 1 is to finalize this document so that it could be fully understood by all Muslim countries, and then all Muslim countries adopt the OIC gender policy. After the adoption, they will start looking into institutional framework for implementation, and last but not least is the review process. So it's very important that we have the review policies in place to ensure that all that is planned are doable. So I guess that's it from me, looking into the concept on the OIC gender policy. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.